Shooting an Elephant by George Orwell. In Momin in Lower Burma, I was hated by large numbers of people. The only time in my life that I have been important enough for this to happen to me. I was a sub-divisional police officer of the town, and in an aimless, petty kind of way, anti-European feeling was very bitter. No one had the guts to raise a riot, but if a European woman went through the bazaars alone, somebody would probably spit Beetlejuice over her dress. As a police officer, I was an obvious target and was baited whenever it seemed safe to do so. When a nimble Burman tripped me up on a football field and a referee looked the other way, the crowd yelled with hideous laughter. This happened more than once. In the end, the sneering yellow faces of young men that met me everywhere, the insults hooted after me when I was at a safe distance, got badly on my nerves. The young Buddhist priests were the worst of all. There were several thousands of them in the town, and none of them seemed to have anything to do except stand on the street corners and jeer at Europeans. All this was perplexing and upsetting. For at that time I had already made up my mind that imperialism was an evil thing, and the sooner I chucked up my job and got out of it, the better. Theoretically and secretly, of course, I was all for the Burmese. I was all for the Burmese and all against their oppressors, the British. As for the job I was doing, I hated it more bitterly than I can perhaps make clear. In a job like that, you see the dirty work of empire at close quarters. The wretched prisoners huddling in the shrinking cages of the lockups, the gray cow faces of the long-term convicts, the scarred buttocks of the men who had been bogged with bamboos. All these oppressed me with an intolerable sense of guilt, but I could get nothing into perspective. I was young and ill-educated, and I had to think out my problems in the utter silence that is imposed on every Englishman in the East. I did not even know that the British Empire is dying, still less did I know that it is a great deal better than the younger empires that are going to supplant it. All I knew was that I was stuck between my hatred of the empire I serve and my rage against the evil-spirited little beasts who try to make my job impossible. With one part of my mind, I thought of the British Raj as an unbreakable tyranny, as something clamped down in a secularum upon the will of prostrate peoples. With another part, I thought that the greatest joy in the world would be to drive a bayonet into a Buddhist priest's guts. Feeling like these are the normal byproducts of imperialism. Ask any Anglo-Indian official if you can catch them off duty. One day, something which in a roundabout way was enlightening. It was a tiny incident in itself, but it gave me a better glimpse than I had before of the real nature of imperialism, the real motives for which despotic governments act. Early one morning, the sub-inspector at a police station at the other end of town rang me up on the phone and said that an elephant was ravaging the bazaar. Would I please come and do something about it? I did not know what I could do, but I wanted to see what was happening, and I got onto a pony and I started out. I took my rifle, an old .44 Winchester, and much too small to kill an elephant, but I thought the noise might be useful in terror. Various Burmans stopped me on the way and told me about the elephant's doing. It was nothing, of course, a wild elephant, but a tame one which had gone must. It had been chained up as tame elephants always are when their attack of must is due. But on the previous night, it had broken its chain and escaped its mahout, the only person who could manage it when it was in that state. Had set out in pursuit but had taken the wrong direction and was now 12 hours journey away, and in the morning the elephant had suddenly reappeared in the town. The Burmese population had no weapons and were quite helpless against it. It had already destroyed somebody's bamboo hut, killed a cow, and raided some fruit stalls and devoured the stock. Also, it had met the municipal rubbish van, and when the driver jumped out and took to his heels, had turned the van over and inflicted violence upon it. The Burmese sub-inspector and some Indian constables were waiting for me in the quarter where the elephant had been seen. It was a very poor quarter, a labyrinth of squalid bamboo huts thatched with palm leaf winding all over a steep hillside. I remember that it was a cloudy, stuffy morning at the beginning of the rains. We began questioning the people as to where the elephant had gone, and as usual failed to get any definite information. That is invariably the case in the East. A story always sounds clear enough at a distance, but the nearer you get to the scene of the events, the vaguer it becomes. Some people said the elephant had gone in one direction, some that he had gone in another. Some professed not even to have heard of any elephant. I almost made up my mind that the whole story was a pack of lies. When we heard yells a little distances away, there was a loud, scandalized cry. "Go away, child! Go away this instant!" And an old woman with a switch in her hand came round the corner of a hut, violently shooting away a crowd of naked children. Some more women followed, clicking their tongues and exclaiming evidently there was something that the children are not to have seen. I rounded the hut and saw a man's dead body sprawling in the mud. He was an Indian, a black Levidian coolie, almost naked, and he could not have been dead many minutes. The people said that the elephant had come suddenly upon him round the corner of the hut, caught him with his trunk, put his foot on his back, and ground him into the earth. This was the rainy season, and the ground was soft, and his face had scored a trench a foot deep and a couple of yards long. He was lying on his belly with arms crucified and head sharply twisted to one side. His face was coated with mud, the eyes wide open, the teeth bared and grinning with one side, grinning with an expression of unendurable agony. The friction of the great beast's foot had stripped the skin from his back as neatly as one skins a rabbit. As soon as I saw the dead man, I sent over an orderly to a friend's house nearby to borrow an elephant rifle. I had already sent back the pony, not wanting it to go mad with fright and throw me if it smelt the elephant. The orderly came back in a few minutes with a rifle and 5 cartridges, and meanwhile some Burmans had arrived and told us that the elephant was in the paddy fields below, only a few hundred yards away. As I started forward, practically the whole population of the quarter flocked out of the houses and followed me. They had seen the rifle and were all shouting excitedly that I was going to shoot the elephant. They had not shown much interest in the elephant when he was merely ravaging their homes, but it was different now that he was going to be shot. It was a bit of fun to them, as it would be to an English crowd. Besides, they wanted to meet. It made me vaguely uneasy. I had no intention of shooting the elephant. I had merely sent for the rifle to defend myself if necessary, and it is always unnerving to have a crowd following you. I marched down the hill looking and feeling a fool with the rifle over my shoulder and an ever-growing army of people jostling at my heels. At the bottom, when you got away from the huts, there was a metalled road, and behind that a miry waste of paddy fields 1,000 yards across, not plowed but soggy from the first rains and dotted with coarse grass. The elephant was standing 8 yards from the road, his left side towards us. He took not the slightest notice of the crowd's approach. He was tearing up bunches of grass, beating them against his knees to clean them and stuffing them into his mouth. I halted on the road. As soon as I saw the elephant, I knew with perfect certainty that I ought not to shoot him. It is a serious matter to shoot a working elephant. It is comparable to destroying a huge and costly piece of machinery, and obviously one ought not to do it if it can be could possibly be avoided. And at that distance, peacefully eating, the elephant looked no more dangerous than a cow. I thought then, I think now that his attack of musk was already passing off, in which case he would merely wander harmlessly about until the mahout came back and caught him. Moreover, I did not in the least want to shoot him. I decided that I would watch him for a little while to make sure that he did not turn savage again and then go home. At that moment, I glanced around the corner at the crowd that had followed me. It was an immersed crowd, 2,000 at the least, and growing every minute. It blocked the road for a long distance on either side. I looked at the sea of yellow faces behind the garish clothes, faces all happy and excited over this bit of fun, all certain that the elephant was going to be shot. They were watching me as they would watch a conjurer about to perform a trick. They did not like me. But with the magical rifle in my hands, I was momentarily worth watching. And suddenly I realized that I should have to shoot the elephant after all. The people expected it of me, and I had got to do it. I could feel their 2,000 wheels pressing me forward irresistibly. And it was at this moment, as I stood there with the rifle in my hands, that I first grasped the hollowness, the fruit, the futility of the white man's dominion in the East. Here was I, the white man with his gun, standing in front of the unarmed native crowd, seemingly the leading actor of the piece. But in reality, I was only an absurd puppet pushed to and fro by the will of those yellow faces behind. I perceived in this moment that when the white man turns tyrant, it is his own freedom that he destroys. He becomes a sort of hollow, posing dummy, the conventionalized figure of Sahib. For it is the condition of his rule that he shall spend his life in trying to impress the natives. And so in every crisis, he has got to do what the natives expect of him.